All right, so we are going to begin. So hello and welcome everyone. It looks like we have quite a few participants here. Thank you for joining me tonight. I have so much in store for you. A lot of information about Ron and technology and how it's really changing um, many industries and particularly the legal industry. So just as a disclaimer, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a notary. So this information is for information purposes, just for a disclaimer. There will be some areas that I will be citing, which will come from the um, Notary Public licensing law, which is public information on the website pertaining to notary law in the state of New York. A lot of this is geared to New York information because I'm based in New York. And for some reason, I feel that attorneys in New York are a little bit more resistant to adopt remote online notarization versus other states. So a lot of this will be geared towards New York, but if you've done remote online notarization before and you're in another state, then you're kind of ahead of the ball because it's a lot easier to do in other states. Okay. So I just want to kind of tell you a little bit about my brand. Obviously, you guys know that my brand is Smart Mobile Notary and Signing. Um, we are a nationwide signing service established in year 2020. We service all 50 states, both in person and remotely notarizing documentation from will and estate transactions, general notary, real estate transactions, things of that nature. We are a small and mighty team, myself and two assistants. That is not including our notaries who are throughout the 50 states. All of our notaries are certified by the NNA. They have background checks and they also have insurance. Like I mentioned, we perform notary acts both in person and remotely. We also are apostille processors. If anyone doesn't know what that is, an apostille is a certificate that verifies authenticity of a public document and can be used in another country. We also translate documents in multiple languages if needed, and that comes in handy when we're working with international clients. So a little bit about me. My name is Melissa Mendez, and I am the owner and founder of Smart Mobile Notary and Signing. I am a domestic and international investor. I am a proud member of the Orange County Chamber of Commerce. If anyone on the seminar is in the LO class 2025, I'm in there as well. Woo! It's an amazing class, great experience. I am an adjunct professor at Torrey University in the Department of Continuing Education, where I taught last semester how to become a notary in the state of New York. Very proud to announce that all of my students have passed and they are notaries. One of my passion projects, I'm on the board of Latinos in Business, Hudson Valley, and also Gray's Advocacy Group, which is a nonprofit organization that specializes in educating and helping women to get out of domestic violence situations, lifestyle partnerships, things of that nature. I am a mother, a daughter, a sister, and very happy to be called a friend. So here are some client testimonials. Why am I talking about client testimonials? Not to toot our own horn, but to kind of give you a little bit of a law of the land about what people are saying about remote online notarization. So let me just move this to the side. I have many screens up. So here on the left side, we have Smart Mobile Notary and Signing made the entire process quick and easy, easy to understand. Highly recommend their services. This is specifically speaking about remote online notarization. On the bottom left, Smart Mobile Notary and Signing was excellent and made the remote process easy. I'm bringing this up for a very valid reason because a lot of people think that remote online notarization is difficult, it's confusing, but it doesn't have to be. Okay. Highly recommend, especially for remote online notarization, easy, efficient, and professional. On the bottom, we have from Alan here, very easy to work with and walked us through the process, worked with us through any technical difficulties. I bring this to our attention because in technology, there will always be difficulties, but that should never stop us from utilizing technology. We have our phones, we use them every day. We have glitches, but we continue to use them. On the top right, we have other recommendations. We provide witnesses. If anyone is curious about that as well, we provide them both in person and remotely. And the last comment that I wanted to note here is in regards to a remote closing that we facilitated and how it was a breeze. We accommodated the client. It was very professional. We were also knowledgeable about platforms and the process of performing this run. So I'm really curious to know, what do you know about RON or remote online notarization? Please add it in the comments. Have you ever used it? Rate your experience. Was it pleasant? Was it confusing? Or if you have not used it, you can also say N or no in the comments. So we have a few no's. Okay, we have a couple of no's. Currently, I have not used it. Okay, so this is really great. And then one, I did use it many years ago. Okay, perfect. So this is great information. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. A lot of individuals who have not used Ron, there's a lot of skepticism in regards to Ron. There's a lot of concerns about confidentiality, data, privacy of your client, a lack of control over the process of notarizing the document, client accessibility, tech issues, as I mentioned before, some concerns about legal violations, uh, flat out resistance to change, okay? And let's not forget about the infamous COVID-19, where people were notarizing things using platforms that were not secure. And there were a lot of data breaches. There was a lot of times where individuals were having their information used and abused, okay? But things have changed since COVID-19. And we have now in place technology which protects both the notary and the signer through technology that is very secure, where it cannot be tampered with, and personal information is not going to be shared across the internet as it once was during the time of COVID. So here are the topics that we're going to talk about today, which probably drew you all to the seminar. The first one is how to enhance client experience with remote online notarization. Second, how Ron enhances the identity security using the softwares that have been approved by each state. Third, how Ron can boost revenue by reaching more clients, which I'm sure all of the attorneys on the line here would be very interested to learn about. And lastly, how to expand your legal practice across how to expand your legal practice across state and international borders, which is very doable. Okay, so before we move on here, I'm looking in the chat. Yes, yes. I heard about that. I'm referring to, so here we have a comment in the chat, nervous about it because of a Florida scam last year. Okay. And there will always be scams. If you want to talk about that briefly, we can, Whitney. Otherwise, we'll move forward. Depending on the technology that you use, um, will determine the security of the signer. So let's go over some facts about Ron. So Ron is not legal in every state. Okay, right now I believe we are legal in about 46 states out of the 50. While many states have adopted Ron, not all allow it. Some states only permit their notaries to perform Ron for signers located within their state, while others will allow it nationwide. And some states, like I mentioned, simply do not allow it at all. Okay, not all notaries can perform Ron. That's another fact. A notary must complete additional training, have technology set up, and be state approved to conduct Ron. So a lot of notaries who are maybe new to Ron think that if they have a traditional commission, that they will be able to start performing Rons immediately. But you have to have a separate approval from the state. So you have to have an approval for a traditional notarization commission and then also a RON. Okay. Let's see. So just because someone is a notary does not mean that they are legally authorized or equipped to perform remote notarizations. Currently in the state of New York, the turnaround time to be approved is about 4 to 5 months. That's not including the additional training that you would need to take to be able to facilitate the remote online notarizations. So these are the 46 states that currently allow Ron. If you want to take a screenshot, you can. I'll leave it on for a second. More facts about Ron is the notary and signer do not need to be in the same state. Okay. All right, so let's pause here for a second. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. So we have yes, yes, yes. So for the individual who put in the comments that you can't see my screen, if you want to refresh, and maybe that would help. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the notary and signer do not need to be in the same state. As long as the notary is commissioned in a state that allows Ron, they can notarize documents for signers in different locations, even in different countries, depending on the laws of that notary state. Okay, and I have a site listed on the bottom here. This is from the Notary Public License Law, section 135-C4. And The information is right there for you to see. This is for New York specifically. So if you're in another state, it might be listed in another area. So I'll give you an example of this. If you are a New York attorney who has a client who is flying to Florida for the weekend or for the week, for spring break, for kids' holiday, Christmas holiday, what have you. However, there's a document that is time sensitive. The Instead of the individual losing time, waiting until they return back to New York to sign the documents, they can very easily be set up on a wrong session, as we call it, and sign the documents while they're in Florida, but the notary is in New York. This happens all of the time. I mean, it doesn't make it legal, but it is legal. It happens all the time where a client is traveling, even internationally. However, the notary is in New York. The paperwork originated in New York. Therefore, the RON can be conducted in the state of New York, even while the individual is traveling. I've had clients notarize documents while in the airport. It's very convenient. Another fact about RON is that RON requires identity verification beyond traditional notarization. So unlike in-person notarization, RON involves a multi-step identity verification methods, which include KPA, knowledge-based authentication. This is when the signer must answer personal questions based on their credit history, okay, that only they would know. Credential analysis, a third-party system verifies the authenticity of the signer's government-issued ID. So when you're on a RON session, and I'll show you this in a minute, you hold your ID to the screen, and through the software, they validate if your ID is authentic or not. They even scan the back of your ID. Okay. All of the sessions are live. They're interactive. The entire session is recorded. It creates a digital audit trail. And also, if you guys know, every notary, well, in New York, it wasn't like this, but now it is. You have to maintain a notarial journal. For up to 10 years of all your notarial acts. So the software saves it for 10 years in the system, just as you would have to save the signatures in your book for 10 years. Do we have any questions before we move on? If so, you can put it in the chat. Okay. Another fact about RON is that not all documents are eligible for RON. Some states and institutions do not accept electronic notarizations, especially for estate planning documents like will and estates, wills and trusts, real estate closings, lender title companies, or courts may require traditional notarization. So it is always crucial to verify before proceeding. Anytime a client comes to me, they're asking for something to be notarized. I always ask that they verify with the recipient if they will accept RON. While it is legal, some people still have their preferences, and some people still do prefer in person. Many of the southern states, especially for will and estate transactions, they will allow RON. So it's important to check within that state's guidelines if they will accept it or not. And if they do, then it's safe to proceed. Okay, I'm just looking at the comments here. So no, the system is not very expensive. I'll mention price a little bit later. The system is not expensive. Um, I would say it's somewhat comparable to a traditional notarial act, but I'll elaborate a little bit on that in a moment. Okay, so Ron is legally equivalent to a traditional notarization. Many people assume Ron is less legitimate than in-person notarization, but under federal and state laws, Ron holds the same legal weight as a traditional notarization as long as it is performed following the state regulations. And for the UETA and also e-sign act, this supports its validity. So within New York, the types of documents that can be notarized via RON are affidavits, court documents. So this is legal documents from a court proceeding, such as judgments, orders, filings, property deeds, documents that transfer ownership of real estate, bills of exchange, promissory notes, and obligations, written documents that can be demanded for acceptance of payment, depositions, testimonies given under oath, electronic records, documents that can be certified as accurate copies, motions, written requests from the court to make a legal ruling, and also business contracts and agreements between parties for business transactions or partnerships. And this is specific to New York. Some other states allow will and estate transactions to be notarized via RON. Also complete closings to be real estate to be facilitated through RON. New York, we haven't gotten there yet, but there are states that are allowing that. Okay, so I have a few questions in the chat. One specifically pertaining to the price point of the platform. So in the state of New York, a single stamp is valued, or the cost of a single stamp, what a notary can charge for a stamp is $2, right? Um, for Ron, it's 25 on the platform. Uh, any additional stamp after that is $5. And then you can also charge per signer. So you are paying for the usage of technology, the convenience of technology, um, and also the security of technology. I would say for a mobile notary versus a remote online notary, costs are pretty comparable. So for signing 5 documents as a mobile notary, meaning you don't have a brick and mortar location, you're driving to a site, you might charge anywhere between $50 and $75. As a remote online notary, you would charge $25 plus any additional stamps. Um, so that would reach about $50 as well at the minimum. So I like to kind of illustrate that the cost can be parallel to each other. Does that make sense? Okay, so it also makes the system look like, this is a question, it also makes the system look like notarization process is quite time consuming. What is a typical length of time involved in doing a RON? So doing a RON is about a quarter of the time that it takes to do an in-person notarization. RON is typically 2 minutes once you get going. Now, some clients have technical challenges when it comes to getting their documents uploaded or their ID uploaded, or sometimes answering the questions. But there is a process that the signer can be taken through to streamline the process so that they don't feel like it's overwhelming or it's confusing or um, most of the hold on one second. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. There's a little bit of okay. I'm not sure if you guys can hear on my end. There's a little bit of a noise from my computer. Technical difficulties. But we move forward. Okay, so yeah, I think it takes about 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops, and we walk the client through the steps that they would need. One of the most important things is to use the browser that is comparable with the platform. So you can use Chrome. If the platform suggests that you use Chrome, that's the one to use. If the platform suggests that you use Safari, that's the one to use. I always recommend clients getting on about 5 minutes before. We walk them step by step. Please have your IEDs available. Please use a plain background if possible. And everything else is pretty straightforward. What are the best platforms to use? That really depends. So New York has about 5 platforms that have been approved by the state. Um, as far as what the best platforms would be, it's really hard to say because different ones have different benefits, if you will. Some of them people consider to be more user friendly. Some of them people consider to be more economical. Um, you do have to pay a fee to utilize the platforms. If you are a notary who wants to be a remote online notary, you would have to pay either a monthly subscription to many of the platforms or you pay per session and per stamp. So it really just depends on how your business model works, how many clients you have, how many documents they're signing. You would have to do the math on that if it makes sense for you to utilize the platform. Um, if you do a quick Google search, you can find, there's different platforms like Notarize is one of them. I've personally never used that one, but a lot of people seem to like it. But they don't have we can't use that in New York, so a lot of southern states use that. Um, and also in different platforms are approved for different states, if that makes sense. If anyone has a question and they want to get off of mute, just let me know. I'm trying to. Okay, so we have another question. Okay, so what is the expense? So what are the expenses? The expenses can run about, it depends on how many you are performing. So if you're performing 25 notarizations, the expense can run you a few $100s a month. It really depends on the volume of notarizations that you are performing. And in regards to which one I use, sometimes I try to I try to stay away from recommending softwares that I use because price points are always different. What you're looking for might be different. So I always recommend doing a search. I'm not sure what state you're in, but doing a search for what platforms, first of all, have been approved in your state. And then you can kind of sort through and see which one could work for you based off of price. Um, if they have a subscription or if they do it a la carte, if is something that will work for you. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. Yeah, I hope that that helps. I get that question a lot, and it honestly is hard to say because I am in New York and I work with notaries all over the 50 states. So I've heard of 40 different companies, and everyone uses a different one. So you really have to find which one has been approved in your state, and how do you want to use it. So as promised, this is a illustration or an image of how the platform looks. This is a test notarization, if you will. On the left-hand side, you have the top image, which would be the notary. Below that, you would have the primary signers. If you have an observer, they will be below that. If you have witnesses, they will be below that. So I believe there was a question before how many people can actually be on a run. I've done as much as 6. So it depends on whatever platform you're using, but I've done as much as 6 individuals at one time. It was myself, it was 3 signers, um, 2 witnesses, maybe 7. Myself, 3 signers, 2 witnesses, and an attorney as an observer, walking us through the documents. So these platforms do have the capability uh, to complete a full notarization for multiple documents, and this set of documents was about 200 pages, so it's very, very possible. All right, so I'm just gonna make this a little bit larger. Let's see, you guys can see it. So this will be the document here. This is the functionality of, one of the platforms. You have your name, initials, the date, signatures, which are all auto-populated. The signer will come on, they would create their own signature, or they can use an electronic signature. These are all the other different functionalities of the software. You have the notary seal, commission, expiry, and state, and notary state, notary county. As I mentioned before, with the verification, this is what the signer must complete before even being allowed to sign anything on the document. So we have their name, we have their role, which is primary signer. We have the KBA or biometrics. Once they pass that, this will show as passed. And then we have the ID verification. So once they upload their driver's license back and front, then they will be verified and will be able to complete the notarization. Okay, any more questions? You can just add it to the chat. Okay, so how to enhance client experience with RON or remote online notarization. So attorneys often hesitate to adopt remote online notarization due to the concerns about security, client accessibility, and workflow integration. However, when it's done right, RON can actually enhance the client experience by making legal process faster, more convenient, and stress-free. So, how to enhance the client experience with Ron is to offer a guided Ron experience to reduce client confusion. There's an attorney that I work with in Ohio, and they always walk their clients through the process prior to the session, whether it's walking them through the documents. Um, the client has a clear expectation and understanding of what to expect. Prior to meeting with any of my clients, I always send them kind of a step by step so that they know what to expect as well. And that would second also as a checklist, which would Let the client know what items they would need to bring to the session, a photo ID, having stable internet, for example, so that they're not surprised if someone kicks off. You can always get back on. And it also never hurts to have a Ron professional facilitating the e-signing. So that could be the notary, that could be someone at your firm, someone who has experience with Ron. And also for the attorneys on the call or paralegals, you can always join a Ron. I think a lot of attorneys and offices believe that if they outsource Ron to another notary, that they won't be allowed to be a part of it. But that is not true. The attorney can come on as an observer, as another signer, and can facilitate the legal aspect of explaining the documents, while the remote online notary can facilitate the Ron process. The second way is to improve accessibility with on-demand and after-hours notarization. This is a huge um, convenience that a lot of clients love. Uh, while it's remote, some clients still want to do it after hours. They still, want to sign their documents after work or even on the weekends. So by providing flexible scheduling options while offering Ron during the evenings and the weekends, that can also enhance your client experience. And lastly, partnering with a certified Ron notary who can notarize the documents on demand so that your clients aren't waiting for, your office, or they're just, maybe they're scheduling with the kids, or, personal travel maybe in the way. Partnering with another Ron professional can also help to enhance the client experience. The second point of the seminar here is how Ron enhances client identity security. We mentioned this before. Okay, I think we have a hand raised. Would you like to come on um, your, would you like to come on audio?
Yes, I'm here. On the
Okay,
last screen, when you mentioned working with a notary, the last part,
yes.
partner with another certified Ron notary, can you expand on that? What do you
So,
mean?
if you're an attorney, and
Oh,
maybe
attorney. Okay.
yes, if you're an attorney or paralegal or another notary, and you have clients who would be interested in getting something notarized remotely, and that could be for many different factors. Like I said, traveling is a huge one. Not being in the same state. How am I going to notarize a document when the person is not in the same state? Um, Partnering with someone who has experience notarizing documents remotely can help to improve your client's experience so that they don't have to wait. Maybe if there's a time crunch for a specific document, you can notarize it that day remotely if you so choose to utilize that service with someone who is certified. Now, if someone is on the call and they are a notary and they want to be certified, they can. They can be certified as a Ron notary. Right now in the state of New York, it's about 3 or 4 months wait time. So you would apply, you would do the training, and then you would have to um, provide information to the state that you are using or will be using one of the platforms that are accepted by the state, whatever state you're using, and then you have to wait to become approved, and then you can begin. That's a little bit of a time, 3 to 4 months. So in that interim, you can use someone who is already ready to go.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay, so how Ron enhances client identity security. So Ron has a multi-layered identity verification to prevent fraud. One of the big ones is KPA, which is knowledge-based authentication. Clients must answer multiple questions that only they should know, i.e., past addresses, loan information, credit information. They must also be verified with their government ID, and also biometrics face matching. So once they upload their ID to the platform, they have to stand in the camera frame, move their face left to right, up and down, and then be verified through the software in that way before they can even sign anything. So I would argue that remote online notarization is actually in many ways a little bit safer than traditional. How many times have you seen a notary glance at an ID? They don't look at the expiration date. They don't look at, you know, if the individual on the photo even looks like the person in front of you. These things happen. However, with the software, they're checking all this for you. They're double checking it for you, and it's very much so fraud deterrent. Another way that Ron enhances client identity security is by having a digital audit trail, which provides an extra layer of security. Every online notarization session is recorded and stored securely. As I mentioned before, in New York, we have a law of 10 years. It was 7, now it's 10. The same thing applies for Ron. It is saved on their platform for 10 years. The system also creates a tamper-proof audit trail, which captures the date, time, and the location of the notarization. So if the notary is in New York, the documents originate in New York, they will capture that. They will capture your location. So if you're a New York notary and you decide to drive to New Jersey for the day and conduct Ron, you cannot do that. You have to be a New York notary and conduct notarizations remotely in your state. The digital audit also takes it captures the ID verification process and results, stores it for you, and the entire video session for legal proof. And as I mentioned before, is stored for 10 years. Okay, and this is just a little refresher of how the screen looks, if anyone was interested. Just looking through to see if anyone else has their hand raised. Okay. How Ron can boost how Ron can boost revenue by reaching more clients. That is definitely not a word you want to slaughter. Revenue is very, very important. Many attorneys handle clients who live in different states or even overseas. Coordinating in person for notarizations across different locations can be expensive, time consuming, and full of delays. So you can increase your revenue by one, expanding your legal reach to out of state clients or international clients. I always say start with tri state. Ryan allows attorneys and business owners to notarize documents for clients anywhere and anytime. A couple of weeks ago, I had a client reach out to me. They wanted to notarize documents for their parents. The documents originated in New York. They were in Korea. We were able to coordinate and notarize their documents in 2 different places in the world. Okay, so as long as the state permits this, um, through strategic partnership with someone who is certified and commissioned to do online notarization, this is something that can be done. So Ron offers, or you can offer an additional service to your you can offer Ron as an additional service to your existing clients. So let me just clarify that. If you are an attorney who has existing clients, you meet them in person, or you may go out to them, or your paralegal may go out to them. Another way to increase or boost your revenue is by offering Ron to them as well. It's just an added convenience. And I think a lot of people are moving towards technology. So it wouldn't hurt to ask if they would be interested in utilizing this service as well. I think too, in mentioning that um, Ron is, potentially a part of your business model, if this is something that you want to adapt, that also offers room for referrals as well. I think the last point here um, in the seminar for the topics that we're going to be discussing is how to expand your legal practice across state and international borders. And I think by this point, it's obvious. So we want to market to out of state clients. Again, tri state area, let them know that you're here to serve them and that traveling is no longer required due to technological advances, i.e., Ron. As I mentioned earlier, a few stories about clients that I have internationally, one in Korea. I've dealt with clients in Paris. Um, Let them know that you're here to serve them. Um, you can expand internationally by serving also US citizens and businesses who are stationed abroad. This is um, this is a very big business, as I mentioned before, that my company, we do apostille processing. A lot of those documents were drafted by attorneys. So this is a little pointer here if you want to take note of that. Some of these clients could be corporate clients, real estate investors, um, individuals who want to do corporate formations, documents, will and estate, the list goes on and on. And below here, I have cited the area in the Notary Public licensing law where it is confirming that you can notarize something if the individual is out of country, but the notary is in state so long as you follow that state regulation. Okay. And lastly, partnering with a company who specializes in Ron. So this reduces your learning curve. It also reduces any platform fees, wait time to get approved for Ron in your state, and also training. So if you're wondering at this point about strategic partnership, let's talk a little bit about that for one moment. Um, Partnering with a company such as Smart Mobile Notary and Signing is kind of a do it for you for your Ron solutions. So we will handle the entire notarization process, of course, partnering with the software for ID verification, document storage, and also audit trails and compliance without requiring you to invest in technology or training. So you would simply send us the documents. We take care of any notarization remotely while you can focus on being a lawyer, taking care of your legal work. Also, strategic partnership has easy implementations. Our process is seamless. Schedule a chat, discover the areas where this service would enhance your current business model, and let us handle the notarizations while you concentrate on what you love. There are no disruptions, just efficiency um, and my phone. That means we're having a good time. And lastly, Ron is the future of legal notarizations. I really wanted to bring it to New York because as my practice is growing, as my business is growing, I should say, I am working with a lot of attorneys out of state, and I just see such a resistance, such a old school mentality, which is nothing wrong with that in New York. But I see a huge opportunity with technology, with AI, with people adapting more of the technology business model. So I think it's an opportunity that should be noticed, if not today, in the future. And it's something that I think would be of value. So, as I was mentioning, Ron is the future of legal notarization, and law firms that adapt it now would stay ahead. Okay. Partnering with us ensures efficiency, compliance, and ultimately would increase your revenue. And here's some information if you are interested. Take a screenshot. I think that that concludes our seminar, and we are just shy of an hour. So if anyone has any questions, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Can you put the contact information back up?
Oh,
I
sure,
didn't have a camera ready yet.
sure.
Okay.
So does anybody have any questions? What do you think? Was that a lot of information? Was it new information? Does it sound exciting to you? Does it, are we still a little, thank you.
So can you tell us approximately how much it costs in New York to get the training for a notary to, it's their license to do remote notarization?
So right now there are several companies that offer remote online notarizations. I've seen companies from 150 to about 450.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay, so
And
uh,
do you have to take an exam after that?
some companies like the NNA, you would have to take an exam, and typically you would pass the exam to be able to just for training purposes. But you don't need to take an exam and pass it to perform a RON.
Okay.
So in order to perform a RON, you would have to be commissioned within your state to perform a RON. But training is required in some states and it's suggested in others. I think because of the sensitivity of the documents you'll be working with, it's highly suggested that anyone who wanted to do RON would have training in it.
Okay. So can you walk us through the process if we were working with you and I'm a notary as well as a lawyer,
So,
but I didn't want to go through all the training and the setup. If I would we just call you and then set up a Ron session and then what happens after that?
right, that's a great question. So currently, how I work with attorneys is that set up a call with them, and we just kind of chat about what you would be interested in. Do you have a need for it in your business? Is it something that you're considering that you want to offer to your clients at some point in time? Um, Once that is established and you would like to implement it, I create a link specifically to your firm where you can schedule remote online notarizations for your clients, and we will reach out to the client to um, notarize the document for them.
Okay. So does the client then have to, for example, yesterday I had a client whose wife is bedridden.
Yes.
So she couldn't come to my office to have a document notarized. So
Hmm.
that meant that I drove all the way to her house and notarized it in person, then came back and charged $5 for the process. So
Right.
um, if we did that with you, what would be the process? What would the client have to have a smartphone or an iPad or some way of software all pre-installed or what? What's
Right.
the
Yeah, that's a great question. I love your questions. So the requirements are that the client would have to have some form of technology. It could be a smartphone, iPad, computer. The software itself is not it. We do not have to install it on the computer. It is a link which is provided by the software for the notarization, the RON software. So, for instance, like today, you had a Zoom link for the Zoom session. The same similar link would be provided to the client. They would click on it and then be prompted to answer a series of questions, to upload their ID, to do the KPA and be verified on their screen. I've had people do it on a computer, iPad, or phone, so long as it's a video and audio, so long as that device has video and audio.
And the cost for doing that one, what we did yesterday remotely, I mean, in person, if we did that with you, how much would that cost the client?
So, how many signers were there,
Just one, the,
and and how
the
many documents?
one deed.
One deed. So typically that would be around 45, about 45 to 50.
Okay, that's reasonable. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not unreasonable. Like I mentioned earlier, it can parallel to what a mobile notary would cost for driving out somewhere and notarizing the document. Um, the same thing goes for if someone's, a loan closer. They're a notary, but they specialize in closing a loan. So um, they're not charging $2 to stamp 200 documents, right? I know in New York it's about 250 to $300 to be a closer. So that might vary, obviously, state to state. However, if someone's notarizing 300 documents, pages, then that would be comparable to doing it driving out, going to the attorney's office. So that could be about 250 to three as well.
okay. Sign me up. I love it, Melissa. Looks great.
Sure. I mean, we can have a deeper conversation. I would like to hear a little bit more about your firm, the location, dig a little bit more into PA and what their requirements are, and then we can discuss something that will work for you.
Good. So I've got your number, the 845-280-6320.
Yes.
And will you be in the office on Monday?
Yes, I will.
Good.
Okay.
Preference of a morning or afternoon call.
I will be in the morning. I'll send you a link to get on the calendar, and we can hop on a Zoom or we can do a phone call.
Okay. You have such a great smile. Look forward to a Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, we have some more questions here.
By the way, your audience, let them know there's no commission in this.
Yeah, there's no commission. This is purely informative. Obviously there are many people who do Ron. I think the most important thing is for legal professionals to really take advantage of it. So whether they want to work with my company, whether they want to work and get, commission on their own, the most important thing is to really do it because you are adding an additional service to your clients. You are helping your clients. We're in the business of service. Whether you're an attorney, a paralegal, a notary, we're helping people. So adding this to your arsenal or business model will only benefit the business
And the client.
and the client, of course. I don't know. I don't know. There was software. I thought Ron was checking licenses on a video. Okay, so yeah, so that is what Ron was. Thank you, Sandra. I'll see you tomorrow, 9:30. Um, so So we have a really interesting statement here that we thought Ron was checking licenses on video call without additional verification and safeguards. That is correct to a degree. That is what Ron was during COVID. And I think in New York, that's why people are so afraid of it still because there was no safeguards. It was people's social security, like on open internet. No, it was wild. And now, because we've learned a lot from those issues, this is why we have software which is already embedded on the internet. So you don't have to download anything additional to your computer or anything like that. Just click on the link and follow the prompts. Thank you, Irina.
So will you be working tomorrow, Melissa?
I work um I work a lot. I will be working tomorrow for a few hours, yes, but I'm taking the weekend off, I promise. Any more questions? I would love to answer questions because this is a topic that a lot of people are not talking about. I was talking to one of my friends who's a title, she has a title company, and there was one other Ron training in New York, and I couldn't believe it. Like I couldn't believe that people are just not talking about it in New York. Okay, yes, I mentioned international. So what specifically would you like to know about that? So it's not a specific list per se. Like I'll give you an example. A friend of mine who lives in Jersey, her friend moved to Portugal to um, on a sabbatical. However, she needed a few documents notarized while she was out there from paperwork that originated in New Jersey. So we were able to notarize the documents for her use, right? Overseas. However, the documents were drafted and came from New Jersey. So if you have a client who is an international investor or traveler or a business owner, um, or yeah, something like that, and they need something that can be, they need something that needs to be notarized, you can notarize it in the United States and they can use it over there. Now, if they need another step of authentication, that country may request an apostille, which, as I mentioned before, is a certificate that verifies the authenticity of a public document so that it can be used in another country. All right. And apostilles are issued by the SOS Secretary of State. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, because my company is nationwide, um, I have attorneys from Maryland who have clients who move to Florida who need documents notarized, and we can virtually notarize it from Maryland to Florida. And then documents in South America. So I want to understand what you mean by documents in South America. Can you elaborate on that? I think it was Carla. Oh, okay, so they're selling property. So if they're selling property in South America, that sounds to me like they would have to sign the documents in South America because it's a property in South America. Now I'm just clarifying, I'm not giving legal advice, right? But if the documents originated in the States and they were traveling to South America, then they will be able to notarize the documents while it's in South America. However, the documents originated in the states, the 50 states. So we don't notarize documents. Um, we don't notarize documents in other countries and and make them valid that way. What we have done is, for instance, if let's say your client is in South America, they're selling a property in South America, and they want to do a POA or power of attorney or something like that, right? And they're in New Jersey. What they can do is they can make a statement or a POA, have that notarized, have it apostilled, and then take that to South America and to the consulate or whatever government official would need to see that document as being valid. That's what the apostille does. And in many cases, you need to have a document signed and notarized before it can be apostilled in many states, New York being one of them. So that's the only, yeah, that's the only way I can see signing something from or pertaining to South America, is if you're giving someone the power of attorney. You know, we would not take a South American document and then sign it in in the States.
I have a question, if I may.
Hmm.
The routine way of marking a deed, for example, is stamp, the seal and the stamp. Um,
Yes.
so when I take the document to be recorded, it's obviously been notarized. What will I be taking to the recorder of deeds, for example, when we do a RON?
Right. So when you have a RON, the document is stamped just like it would be stamped in person. So my RON has my full name, it has my commission number, it has the state in which I'm commissioned, it has my expiry date and the county. On top of that, it says notarized remotely. So that would indicate to the recipient that this was notarized. However, it was notarized remotely, whereas a traditional stamp does not have that additional verbiage on the top. Okay, so once the notarization is complete, you would go ahead and print the document out in a PDF form, right? And you can email it to someone, you can print it out, um, and then provide it to whoever needed that document.
So there's no seal, there's just a stamp.
Yes, there's just a stamp. There's no raised embossed seal or anything like that.
So when the client signs the deed, I'm thinking of yesterday,
Hmm.
then you stamp the document somehow um, in a
Virtually.
PDF. I email it, I scan and email that document to you. You stamp it and then you send it back to me.
Right. So how the process works is you call me, you say, "Hi, Melissa, I have a client. They want to notarize something." You email me the PDF of that document, or
Okay.
you can upload it on my site, whichever one you prefer. I do PDFs. I would take that PDF, I would upload it into the software. Okay. Let me see if I can go back. Yeah, I upload it into the software. You would see it in front of you like this. The individual will be on the call with me. Um, all the states that I've worked with, we are required to make an acknowledgement prior to notarizing a document. So we would go through that whole process with the client, have them confirm that they're okay. Once they're verified, once they confirm that they're okay to proceed and be recorded, because it is a requirement to be recorded, their document would appear like this. We would this quitclaim deed was made of we would go to the side right here. We would go to the text area. We would put the date. If a date was already in it, there's a function for us to do a single line, just like we would do in person. We would do
Yep.
the corrected date, and then we would do an initial, right? And then we would go ahead and this particular sample does not have a signature line on it, but let's just say I'm gonna actually see if I can open up the, okay, annotation right there. Let me see if I can open up. So let's just say this is the area where our client has to sign.
Right.
Okay, so I, the notary, would go over here where it says signatures. I would drag and drop a functionality to promote the signature there. It would now prompt our client to sign. They would sign. Then on the following page where the notary area is, I would sign there. And then I would go over here, drag and drop my notarial seal to this document. It would have my name, it would have my state, it would have my commission number, it would have my expiry, and the county in which I was commissioned in. Once we're complete with the notarization, we would close out of the notarization. The software would save it. It will be emailed to the client in a PDF format, and it will also be emailed to me, the notary. I would then share that with the attorney and no one else. That
But I don't what
Yep.
I don't understand is how did the signatures get on there? Because will the client have a hard copy that they sign and she or she signs in front of you so you see it signed and then that's scanned and emailed to you? Or do they
So,
try, or
or
it
the
doesn't have to be on a smartphone, the signature is not going to look anything like a person's real signature.
You'd be surprised. So there's so many different functionalities. A lot of people like to do it on an iPad where they can use their finger to sign. Some of our pens are really, up to date where they can take a pen, like the little special part of a pen, and they can sign as though they were actually signing. So you'd be surprised. It actually gets rather close to the likeness of an in-person signature. Now,
But
that's one option. The
so it
other
has to be,
option,
so it has to be done on an iPad then with a sensitive screen, touch sensitive screen.
it can be done on any electronic device. Some people just have their preferences. So for the signature area, you can adopt one of two signatures. One is the one that you personally would write in, which is what we were just discussing. The other one is where you would elect to adopt an e-signature, where the computer would generate a signature for you. Now, on your side, as a client, as the viewer, you have to opt in to using the e-signature, but it holds the same weight as your signature that you would write because you're authorizing the usage of that signature. And all this is done through the software. Um, you asked how they sign. Once I drag and drop this in and I prompt it, it would do a little box. The client would click the box. The box would say, would you like to write your signature or would you like to use an electronically adopted signature? The client would select which option they wanted, and then that signature would now populate in their signature area. Okay.
Oh,
The same with my signature. I've already created a signature in the system, so I just continue to use the same signature that I always use. And then the document would be fully complete.
wow, that's amazing.
It's pretty amazing. When you and I have our meeting, I can walk you through and show you a little, I can show you maybe like a mock notarization so that you can get a full view of, the ease of the system and how quickly it can be done.
Okay. Wow. Amazing. Takes my breath away. Congratulations.
Thank you. No, it's really I know in these New York winters, sometimes you don't want to be on the roads driving. Thank you, Betsy, so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Whitney says like DocuSign. It's similar to DocuSign, but I would say that it probably has a lot more security, like with personal information. But yeah, to your point, with the ease in signing, yes, it's definitely like DocuSign for sure.
Okay, well, I look forward to talking with you on Monday. Wish you a nice weekend, far from the office.
Yes, thank you so much. I don't see any more questions. I hope I'm not missing any. Thank you all for joining us tonight for this seminar, and I look forward to touching base in the future. Have a great night. Take care, everybody.